GM against all odds. We are live. We had a power outage this morning. The power has just come back on. My internet is wonky, so I'm hotspotting this. So I'm not sure if this is even going to work, but if I am reaching all of you, this is a 20-second BBM. So if you want to hop in, there's plenty of room. We're waiting for 8. In all likelihood, this will probably be the only draft I can run today. So this might have to be a little bit of a shorter stream, but we'll see. We'll see what everything brings to us. So please let me know if my audio and everything sounds decent. Otherwise, we are waiting for 7. Who Hames can't be active, but I got you. Who Hames, thank you so much for coming in this morning on Real Time Knows Ball. Well, we know that on Real Time because you know that QBs matter. So thank you so much for coming in and for your support. JT Best Ball, my man has power, and I'm here to catch it. Yes, the power is back on in the neighborhood. Thank goodness. If all of a sudden I go dark, it's because they turn the lights off on me again. So who Hames beat me to the like button, cat-like reflexes, TikTok, like Gimli, TikTok legend, Dirty P. Thank you so much for your support. I do not know who Ken Lee is, but I assume they have more nimble fingers than I do based on that. Skeletor, GM, thank you for coming in. Steve Schaup, GM, great to see you this morning. Appreciated your stream last night. I think you got up to 4 drafts, so that was an impressive run you were on, although I got outvoted. And, I was ready to run my final pit bull with you. And the super flex community just came in and just rocked the vote. And I was outvoted. So I still have 1 pit bull left. But Steve, great stuff as always over on the Fanspeak Network. Who Hames says meow. Good good morning to you again, Who Hames, and B Grandy 17 GM. So let's see. B Grandy was able to hop into this one. He's in the 1 hole. I am in the 12 hole next to Steve himself from Fanspeak. Steve said, I cannot miss the EV that I am getting here. So Steve, there you are at the at the turn. The odds of me getting Scatabo are essentially zero. If we could just write in Cam Scatabo at pick 107 right now. No, I'm just I am just kidding, Steve. I have far too much Scatabo as it is, and so I am I'm trying to back that closer to 25 to 30. I'm not saying I wouldn't take him here, but I'm trying to even some of these exposures out. As you see, the crawl on the bottom of the screen is BBM exposures through 49 drafts. I think I'm up to 53. So probably for tomorrow's stream, I'll update that. Again, I have to retype everything and shuffle names around. So it takes a little bit of time, but that gives you a rough idea of where we are at. Scatabo at 86. Well, what if Steve gets wind of me taking Scatabo at 86, and then then now I have to take him at 61. It's like the Butter Battle book from Dr. Seuss. We go earlier and earlier, and then all of a sudden it's Scatabo at pick 11. But we'll see. We'll see if Steve does that. But I it would be quite the move. Let's see. Early on, Saquon at 5. My goodness, that is nice from the 5 hole. If nothing else, it'll, assuming they just take the best value at ADP, that's going to give them probably some kind of unique-ish combination, at least as far as BBM's concerned. Nothing that isn't done at all unless they get a really massive faller. But nice start for Eric Foster, our friend B Grandy, in the 1 hole over there, all the way on the other side of the board. He gets Jamar Chase. I'll pull up the board. And let's see what Steve does there at the 11. Just thinking about what I am going to do. I'll probably going to build 1 running back, 1 receiver here. I'll do a Henry Amon-Ra. I'm really trying to get my Henry exposure up. I have enough Genty. I'm pretty much at market with him, I think. But, if I'm trying to catch up at Henry, maybe in a vacuum, I prefer Nico a hair to Amon-Ra. And you know what? I think I'm actually going to... No, I'm Sorry, I know this is scintillating stuff here. I'll just take Amon-Ra. Again, this is where having an overlay would really help me out a little bit because I don't want to end up with the same combos. I forget who I paired Henry with last time. And so, if I'm trying to catch up with a guy, I don't want to be building the same, pairing them with the same player every single time. But, Amon-Ra and Nico, it's such a flat tier. It's really a choose your own adventure with who you get there. Yep. This might avoid me taking another JMO share there at the at 36-37. That is an awful lot of draft capital on the Detroit receivers. I will do that from time to time, but I don't know if this is going to be the draft for that. Steve, he takes Nico Collins there at 14. He pulls A-Chain into the first round. And that's interesting because when I was blabbing about Derrick Henry, I was actually thinking in the back of my mind how much I would like to be taking more A-Chain, especially with the departure of Jonnu. A-Chain is likely going to be one of the chief beneficiaries of that. I mean, obviously Hill and Waddle, big candidates for that. We see Tyreek Hill going here at pick 20, so steaming up into the earlier and earlier in the second round. It's going to be hard to imagine him getting past the the Jamar Chase drafter. I think people are going to want to get that week 16 game that's looking more and more enticing there. I think the one hole very easily, if he falls to 24, you're going to see a lot of Jamar Higgins plus Hill kind of teams, or Jamar Hill plus a Cardinal. I think that's going to be more and more popular. You're going to see people try to take Tyreek and then pair him with Chase Brown. So I think this is to say, I think we're going to see Tyreek, here at pick 20. I don't think that's going to be an anomaly. I think that's going to be kind of the way of the future here. So B. Grandy, he goes with the Bengals double stack, takes Chase, Higgins, and McBride, building out that week 17 stack that we do see somewhat frequently. We'll see if he tries to pull off the Burrow push or if he takes him at 48. Again, assuming nothing too out of the ordinary happens. Al Boogie, GM, thank you so much for coming in this morning. Again, I'm glad I'm here at all. I did not think I was going to be able to stream, but then the lights turned on and we were rocking and rolling. So let's pull up the board here. So all of the elite quarterbacks are still here. Lamar and Henry is of course slightly tempting. I might take this opportunity to take a Metcalf share here and kind of punt off the decision. I'm not really big on Breece Hall, although you know what? Let's take a Josh Allen share. I don't have a ton of Josh Allen. I'm going to get one of these receivers I like in this range. I guess I'm going to get a receiver I like in this range because I'm picking back to back. I don't know why I, for some reason, moved myself to the 11 and thought I had to wait for Steve. So I did not. That was, that was good stuff there. So yeah, so we'll take Metcalf, Amon-Ra, Henry, and Josh Allen. There could be an argument that maybe Metcalf, we see him as a little bit of a faller now that Jonnu is there. But again, I'm willing to think that that this becomes a little bit of a rising tide situation in Pittsburgh. That if the Steelers' offense is just better in general, there's going to be a larger pie and more touchdowns to go. Yeah, happy to take some Metcalf there. I know I'm pretty low on that exposure. I almost exclusively click JMO ahead of Metcalf, so that's something that I do want to back off of a little bit there myself. JT Bestball is glad to have been loading in on Hill in the third round. 100% agree. He's it's going to be very difficult to get him in the third round. It's crazy on DraftKings. You were getting him at the 3-4 turn. And I never thought that price made any sense. And I think even on DK, he's going to start moving much closer to his underdog price. But his ADP over there was like near 36, 38, if I remember right. And that is gone. So Steve, he took Mike Evans and Lamar Jackson. Over here, B. Grandy, he takes Devonta Smith Let's see if he decides to take Burrow. He does not. So he decides to try to pull the Burrow push. Jalen Hurts went kind of early here at 43. Again, I think that's a perfectly fine pick there, but you do see him go in the mid to late 50s at times. And especially, he will not get to pair Jalen Hurts with Devonta, but he did have A.J. Brown. So I didn't see that initially. That makes sense for him to just take Hurts if he wants to get that as a primary stack. Jameson Williams at 50, really nice value there. He's been in the early 40s as of late. Steve, what's up? Love your solo streams. They're good, says Al Boogie. Hard agree there, Al Boogie. Steve's streams are fantastic, and I highly recommend them. They kind of bookend my day. I start my day here, and then I can end it with Steve's evening solo streams. It's pretty nice. Greg vs GM. Thank you so much, fellow long-suffering Dolphins fans. And Bindo, glory, yes. Darren Waller is who you need. Is he a rap artist, or is he a league-winning tight end, or is he both? We will find out. But certainly a unexpected signing, at least for me. I really thought the Dolphins were going to trade for a Mayer, a Fant, that kind of range of player. Maybe like a blockbuster, go after like an Andrews kind of thing. The grumblings that the Ravens might be moving him. Certainly didn't think Darren Waller was going to be the guy. But you know what wouldn't shock me is if the Dolphins did trade for somebody else. All the dominoes have perhaps not yet fallen for this. So we'll see what ends up happening with the Dolphins tight end. All right. So Jennings goes. I'm pretty big on Jennings. I might just take Odunze and Harvey here. I really like Harvey. I like that we now get him later than we did earlier in the contest. We'll just take Odunze and Harvey here. Yes, I have a couple week 5 buys. What are you going to do? You can't win them all, but I don't want to not take a player that I'm more and more in on. Again, Odunze was a guy that I was kind of not excited about in the big board, and arguably his situation got worse, but he's been getting a lot of good camp buzz. And another guy I'm just going to take at market in this flat-ish tier. Maybe in my heart of hearts, I prefer Olave and Godwin slightly to Odunze, but again, just trying to not just click the same guys every time and build a little bit of a portfolio. Steve there, he took Jennings and Connor. I like both of those guys quite a bit, especially Jennings. Pretty excited about the Niners offense. And again, as the Ayuk news gets worse, I think we're just going to see Jennings and Pearsall continue to kind of slowly grind their way higher. Greg would never thought he'd be excited about Julian Hill's prospects. Good Lord. Yeah, it is grim. Chad, sorry, I missed that. Chad, what are we doing? I don't know, man. It's bad. Could this be the start of a fire sale? We'll see. I know Tyreek Hill, noted Twitter troll, tweeted out the Fresh Prince gif of Will Smith just standing there like, where is everybody in the empty room? We'll see. We will see. Chris Negus, thank you so much for coming by. Says wake up, and indeed wake up. Waller is just a tight end, says on real time. The ball knower himself has declared the rap phase of Darren Waller's life to be taking a back seat. He is back in on football. I hope so. As a Dolphins fan, I would love that. So B Grandy, thank you. See, this is your reward for coming by the stream and hanging out with us. You pull off the Joe Burrow push, so you are rewarded with that. And yeah, that's pretty nice. That is nice to be able to pull that off there. And let's see. Al Boogie says Keenan will end up in Miami. Get him while you can. Well, he did say he wanted to play somewhere warm. I know it was originally like Chicago, LA, but I think he also said like a warm weather place. And yep, I could see that. I could definitely see that. The wide receiver 3 position in Miami is certainly not a whole lot of competition there. Where is Durham Smythe when you need him? Yeah, I wonder what he's up to. Sort of a DFS legend in the fact that we all kept trying to roster him, and then he never did anything. But yeah, Al Boogie just got Harvey at 70 now. BBM, my goodness, that is nice. I thought I was happy with getting him at 61. 70 all the way on the other side of the board where you used to have to get him a whole round later is that's that is pretty nice there. Let's see what we've got here with Allen, Henry, Harvey, and then Amon-Ra, Metcalf, and Odunze. Let's see what Steve, sort of getting hand me downs from Steve here. Let's see what he gives to us. Ricky Pearsall goes. I definitely would have taken him. I don't know if Steve would have gone for the Niners double there or not, but we will never know. By ADP, it's Pacheco. Um, hmm. So he takes Josh Downs. I think I'm going to queue up Pacheco. I think a third running back here makes sense. I'm pretty out on Brian Robinson. I like TJ Hawkinson a lot. I like Darnell Mooney a lot. I might take Hawkinson. I know I get a lot of him, but this creates a little bit of another week 17 situation. It gives us some flexibility to end this team with two tight ends. If that's what the room gives to us, it opens up JJ McCarthy as another quarterback. So like the pick there, and then Steve takes Mooney, which I always like to see because that sort of validates the my player take on another guy I would have liked. All right. Let's see. Tiger uppercut GM. Bindles, do you want a pop-in guest? Sure. I've never actually had a guest, so I would have to figure that out. I can send you a message on Discord. I don't even know how you would appear on the screen, so Bindles, I can send you a Discord message, and we can see if we can arrange that. All right, Bindles, let's see. I don't think we're friends on Discord, so you'll have to accept my ad. Assuming this isn't a fake Bindles, that would be the nightmare scenario in here. Just someone impersonating Bindles, but we'll see if we can get a last second guest here or not. All right, I sent you a link. See what happens. I don't know how this is going to work. Let's see. B. Grandy, after he takes Khalil Shakir, he adds on Kyler Murray, so he gets two good quarterbacks there. And then takes Tyrone Tracy. So, Steve, I don't know what we do about B. Grandy taking Tracy ahead of Scatabo. I don't know if we can try to vote him out of the room. I don't know. I don't really know what the process is here, seeing that happen. It's very disappointing. But there goes Tyrone Tracy. All right. The board is coming. Scatabo is becoming closer and closer to a member of the of Steve's team. He is. Let's see what happens, though. Let's see what the room gives to us. For me, Keon Coleman would be a priority if he falls to us to pair with Josh Allen. Don't know that he will. Steve has 5 receivers, so maybe he passes on that. Let's see what K-Mac Duder does. He passes. So does Steve take Scatabo or does he snipe Coleman from me? Let's find out. Let's see. So he does predictably takes Cam Scatabo. Thank heavens for that. So I could take Coleman and Caleb. I kind of like that. I think we're gonna just take Coleman and Caleb and be probably just call this a 2 QB team. I am in on Shaheed. I like Bateman, but again, neither of those guys make a ton of sense, I think, on this team. So let's just add Caleb to the message. Bindles got a message from boss. Don't think he can join. That's okay, Bindles. It would have been fun. I've actually never had a guest on, and I'd love to do that. And Bindles, you certainly would certainly love to have you on. So we will make that happen. And I am certainly open to the impromptu last minute add to the stream. All right. All right. Let's see. So what did Steve do? Steve took Bateman, which makes sense, of course, with Lamar Jackson. Recapping the team for the audio listeners, we've got Josh Allen and Caleb Williams at quarterback, Derrick Henry, RJ Harvey, and Isaiah Pacheco at running back, Amon-Ra, DK Metcalf, Rome Odunze, Keon Coleman at receiver, and TJ Hawkinson at tight end. So maybe a little thin at receiver. Coleman as a fourth receiver um, is a little bit sketchy, especially with our fifth receiver isn't going to come till at least 132 and 133, and just being sort of thinking ahead on the board. That's a terrible range to be needing a receiver. So this could be somewhere where we are picking up a bunch of receivers late off of the scrap heap. But we'll try to land this plane. We're going to hope that Amon-Ra and Metcalf are kind of in that elite receiver range. But again, this very limited in wide receiver firepower on this team, and that's what happens when you take Josh Allen and Derrick Henry with two of your first four picks. Is you're going to be catching up at the wide receiver position. And again, maybe I'd feel a little better if Pacheco was somebody else in that range of, a Mooney or, a Pittman kind of player. And then I was trying to backfill with running backs, which are a little more live in this 130 range than are the receivers. But we'll see. We will see what happens. So there goes McCarthy, presumably to the, I believe that was the Jefferson drafter taking them there. Bashal Tutin, one of my mid-round running back targets, he goes off the board there. B. Grandy, he took Christian Kirk and Ray Davis. Makes sense. A wide receiver gets very thin there. And Ray Davis, I think that's a little early for Ray Davis, but I do like that pick quite a bit. A nice back with standalone plus contingent value, which I always do like it when you're taking those running backs that aren't necessarily full-on starters, but aren't also likely to just be pure zeros on the team. So let's see what the room gives to us. Sam, Casey, McDuder, and Steve all have at least 5 receivers. So it's possible it's possible that I'll have the chance to get one of these guys coming around, whether Mims or Hollywood. Very fertile ground for tight end with Kraft and Loveland. I don't take a ton of Loveland, but if I were to take him, it would make sense to have him on a Caleb team. And I could imagine that Hawkinson could get me through early in the season if I want to end at 2. A little worried about Loveland, being ready for the start of the season. Let's cue Loveland up. Then the bigger question is do I take Jared Goff in this position? I think I do like the possibility of adding Goff. That is a ton of QB capital and firepower there. If I did, I would definitely end at oh man, but now I should have taken Kincaid. I should have taken Kincaid, folks. All right, we're going to do that. We're going to take Kincaid. This is pretty sketchy. I'm going to be perfectly candid with all of you. I think Kincaid would have been a better pick, and then maybe gone Kincaid and Goff and felt a lot better. I'm going to tell myself that we're pretty elite in tight end, and I think there's a reasonable chance that Kincaid or Loveland are as likely to hit my flex as the wide receivers in this range. And kind of build out accordingly. This will definitely have to stop at 2 quarterbacks after adding that third tight end. But, I did want to build that stack with Caleb, and I kind of blinded myself to the fact that the Josh Allen stack is probably the more important one, and we've built out there. So, yeah, interesting choices there. We're definitely going to shut it down at QB and tight end and be filling out the roster at running back and receiver from there. Steve, I think I pulled this up before that you got Scatabo, but yes, I was nervous you weren't going to get Scatabo there, and it's a good thing. Our spots were not reversed in this board, because I definitely would have taken him there. So let's see what Steve does. Steve gets Isaiah Likely, which is a really nice ad for his team, for his Lamar Jackson crew gets CJ Stroud, which also makes sense because he has Nico Collins. So, Steve, I feel like I like your team better than mine. I'm just gonna be honest with you. I think I think your team is coming together nicer than mine at this point. Let's see. Hold on one second. All right. All right. I thought my internet was dying on me, but I think we're still good. B. Grandy, our friend over there, he takes Trey Benson and Xavier Leggett, so continues to build out a perfectly reasonable and well constructed roster there. And there goes Bryce Young. He takes Jonnu Smith. So Jonnu Smith going at 143. His ADP's kind of been all over the place. I was in some rooms yesterday where Jonnu was going closer to his old ADP near 120, and then I saw him go at like around 160 in another draft. So it really just depends. I don't know where ADP is actually going to settle. My hunch would be around 150, but it could be even after that. But not really sure where that's going to wind up, but certainly continues to kind of just plummet down the board. Cam Ward off at 143. Interesting to see him go ahead of Tua. I feel like people have been more excited about Tua now that and hold on, I am on the clock here. I think Pat Bryant, definitely a guy I'm going to want on this team. And maybe we'll take a Tank Bigsby share. I think that's fine. I like Algier more, but I obviously did not get that. So we'll take Pat Bryant and Tank Bigsby. Pat Bryant, hopefully, hopefully gives me a little bit of late season upside, but I think it's entirely possible he is playing sooner than later. I do like Jack Betch. I considered taking him there, but I did want to add another running back who I think is going to at least be giving me non-zero points and potentially has a lot of upside. So there, Steve, he does not pass on that value on Tua. I think that's unstacked. I can already see the wheels turning, and Darren Waller feels like he's going to go to Steve's team, but we'll see if that's actually what happens over there. Kyle Pitts goes at 160. He has been plummeting down draft boards himself as the weird injury news continues to plague old Kyle Pitts. And yep, there we go. We'll see what B Grandy does. I realized I did not ever put my headphones on before the stream started, so I do not have the ducks going. But I guess I can get that. I can get that happening here. All right. There goes Strange, one of my generally favorite late-ish round tight end picks, but obviously on this team, we do not need any more. We do not need any more tight ends. We have hit tight end capacity on this particular team. B Grandy, he gets Mike Gesicki to pair with Burrow, so B Grandy's team seems like it's coming together fairly strongly, along with Rico Dowdle. Aaron Rodgers goes, so Black stock pairs Aaron Rodgers with Jonnu there. Had I not sort of locked myself into a 2 QB build, Aaron Rodgers might have made sense for me with DK Metcalf. FK Coolers, GM, thank you so much for coming in this morning. Team is officially Buck approved. Yeah, well, that's the goal. That's the goal every time we fire one of these up. We think, what would Buck say about this team? And I guess the two things are don't draft Jalen Hurts and take Tank Bigsby at all costs. And I'm sure that's exactly the message he is trying to put forth. All right, coming up to us, let's see what we can put together. Probably prioritizing receiver, although Alec Pierce is probably who I would have preferred in that range. Braylon Allen goes, My plan was to double tap Diami Brown and Braylon Allen. Instead, we're going to have to. I'll take Miles Sanders. We'll take the swing on him. I'm really in on Diami Brown. I think he is one of the more mispriced players here. And, if Miles Sanders is actually, kind of Ezekiel Elliott-ish in the Dallas offense, then he's going to be a huge value at pick 181. We all remember that pick being a little weird, but it kind of did, it was not the worst click. Just even if Sanders, is the first and second down back, or he just, gets relegated to, sort of or more of a third down pass catching kind of back. He's shown some versatility in what they do. So I think they could deploy Sanders in a number of different ways. And whatever role he gets, if he is on the field playing for Dallas, that's something that we want a part of. And I'm more than happy to take that in the 16th round. Could he be a big old zero? Sure. But, if Miles Sanders is ever going to win a job, it's going to be against Jaden Blue and Javonte Williams and something called the Phil Maffa, which I understand is a very large running back who really just projects as sort of a short yardage specialist. But we will see what we get out of Miles Sanders, if anything. Certainly one of those clicks that might feel a lot better in July than in October. But again, stay tuned for that. Stay tuned for how that shakes out. So right now we've got a 2-5-6-3 with Josh Allen, Caleb Williams at quarterback, Derrick Henry, RJ Harvey, Isaiah Pacheco, Tank Bigsby, and Miles Sanders at running back. Wide receiver room of Amon Ra, DK Metcalf, Romo Dunze, Keon Coleman, Pat Bryant, Diami Brown, and a tight end room of TJ Hawkinson, Colston Loveland, and Dalton Kincaid. So, definitely a few things I would have done differently. Probably would have taken Kincaid over Loveland or passed on Hawkinson at 85. And I think I would feel a little better if that was probably another running back I was able to get at that point. Although, when I picked Pacheco at 84, it was really down to B-Rob or reaching up for Mason. So it was not a ton of running back options were available there. B. Grandy, he takes Nick Chubb and Darius Slayton. Again, picks that all certainly make sense. We're going to pay attention to what Steve does. Let's see who his late round selections are. He has 3 quarterbacks, so we'll see if he goes towards like a 3-5-7-3. I think with let's see his tight ends with Likely and Otten. I am going to guess that Steve adds a tight end here. It feels like Juwan Johnson, but he's going to take Waller. We talked about this earlier, but he'll probably take Waller after me because he knows I don't need a tight end. And so he's going to push it, and let's see who he takes. For me, sort of thinking about who I want on the team, so he takes Ray McLeod. As far as receiver, Dante Thornton has been getting buzz. A.D. Mitchell, I'll take A.D. Mitchell over Thornton here, and then I'll just take Marshawn Lloyd. Again, just trying to take different guys. A.D. Mitchell, I think he's probably the most talented of this late crop. Obviously carries a ton of risk. And I just think Marshawn Lloyd actually is the backup running back in Green Bay, which I think is a valuable role. And, if I want to get really week 17, we'll do Henry and Lloyd. So Steve takes Juwan Johnson ahead of Darren Waller. So he, despite taking Tua, he is not going to take he is not going to get that stack there, which, I honestly think who's more likely to score points in week 17, Juwan Johnson or Darren Waller? It's unquestionably for me, Juwan Johnson. I think Steve made the right choice. I think it's getting too cute to just force the stack, especially when it's your third tight end and your third quarterback. Like I think, I think adding unstacked Tua at that ADP value was perfectly fine, and I like the way that Steve rounded out his team. McLeod, McLeod was an interesting pick because Steve did not have Steve did not have Penix, and I feel like you almost always see some of these late round receivers paired with their quarterback, and I think that might be a mistake. Like, you don't only want McLeod teams on teams you have Penix. I think I don't only want, Dante Thornton on teams I have Geno. I think, sometimes you do want to vary your late round clicks. Obviously you want to aim towards your stacks, but, I think if you don't want to necessarily avoid late round guys you're interested in just because you don't have their quarterback, especially when you have an elite quarterback like Lamar Jackson. Like, Lamar Jackson can go off, and if Ray McLeod has a big game, sure, Penix might have a good game, but you're going to be boxing out those teams. So I like the way that Steve rounded out his crew. B. Grandy, I do not know who B. Grandy ended up taking. I guess we will. I said I was going to call it here, but maybe we'll do one more. Let's see what we can do. I'm probably try to fire my last Pitbull, but let me try to fire my last Pitbull. B. Grandy, let me know who you took there. All right, so I think I have one Pitbull left. Yep. All right, I'm gonna hop into this, and we'll see what happens. Let's see. Oh, waiting for 11. Good golly. All right, so we're going to hop out of that Pitbull because, I'm sorry if someone joined here waiting for 10. You should be able to make it out before it fills. I could try a 30-second sprint, but these have just not been anywhere near filling. I do want to do more sprints. Waiting for one. All right, waiting for one. Hey, thanks. First of all, GM, can't believe Al Boogie is awake. Amazed. Al Boogie is a frequent member of these streams and a loyal part of Wake Up Best Ball. So I'm super happy to have him here. Steve, pretty good draft and Steve. Thank you so much, Steve, for hopping in that. I feel like we didn't butt heads too much in the at the turn. So I do appreciate that. Although I knew as soon as I saw where I was, there was no chance of getting my king Cam Scatabo on that team. But I do like how it turned out. B. Grandy, Theo Johnson. Okay, that makes sense. I think you were in need of a tight end there, and I like Theo Johnson. Someone I did not take enough of in the big board, and now I wish I had some of him because I've been mixing him in as a late round click. Dirty P says sprint +2. Well, Dirty P, I see you there at the 5 hole. So Steve is in this draft. Awesome. Al Bugs is everywhere and nowhere. Just a mystery, man. Just an absolute enigma out there. DQ105, hello. DQ, thank you so much for coming in this morning. Appreciate hanging out with you. And yes, so we've got Dirty P at the 5 and Steve-O at the 6. And, we're in a sprint with no Jewish McCaffrey. It's a little shocking, but, here we are. So it looks like the flippening has happened even in the sprint drafts with Jefferson going ahead of Saquon. I'll start off with a Jefferson team, and off we go. So for me, I build my sprint team. I've been waiting for you in the sprint since 7 a.m. Just sitting in the dark. Like I imagine like all these draft spots, they're just like dark, like you're in a room with no lights on. But yes, Dirty P, I am glad you are here and awake. We'll see how many people are auto drafting because I hopped in a sprint at like 8 a.m. on my phone when I thought I was gonna have no power the whole day, and it was waiting for 3, and then I waited for like 20 minutes and it was still waiting for 3. It was so if this is that same room, we could have some auto drafters in here. FK Cooler is like the super bad scene of the kid eating yogurt by himself. Yes, Steven Glansberg. That was Dirty P just eating by himself like Steven Glansberg. Excellent shout there, FK Cooler. Fantastic movie. Super bad. So let's see. Dirty P on the clock. He takes CD Lamb. And Steve at the 6. Let's see what Steve does. He takes Jahmyr Gibbs. So again, I have long felt that this is a tier break, that the top 6 really is a tier of 6. And then after that, it to me gets very, very flat. And, I think opinions vary widely. Some people think CMC is a Giga Smash. Other people have their favorite receiver in that range. Some people think Genty is going to conquer the world, but I think it's pretty clear these 1 through 6. So I do think there's a bit of a tier break there. Puka Nakua goes at 7, obviously one of that clump of receivers you see going off. And yeah, let's see how much auto drafting takes place. I imagine there are going to be quite a few people taking the full 30 seconds. So we've got lots of time together in this draft. But as I was saying before, I really just try to approach these sprints like BBMs, where I'm looking to correlate some of those matchups. I think that teams like Houston, I think Detroit, they have pretty favorable schedules. I like the Falcons' schedule. The Bengals is good, but the Bengals are weird because it's like you don't really go out of your way to get them. You're either drafting on this left side of the board and you get the elite Bengals, or you don't. I mean, you can add in your Mike Gesicki's of the world, but for the most part, Jamar Chase, Higgins, and Chase Brown all kind of go to the 1 through 4 holes, unless you really go out of your way to pull up Chase Brown, or you get Chase Brown as a faller into the mid to late third. Cross X face hot Z sauce is no joke. I tend to assume that I feel like the sprint rooms are tend to be very sharp, and so I'm just assuming that people are in here knowing what they're doing. Like it's kind of a weird contest. You kind of got to go out of your way to find it. It doesn't fill very fast, so you're not just going to get the person just like on their phone, like, oh, I want to rip a draft, and just hops into something. So I do. It does not surprise me. I'm not familiar with Hot Z sauce, but I will take your word for it. Cross face there. Sean, I'm surprised your wife gave you the phone back after some of those crazy tweets you have been making. Well, I don't know what Sean has tweeted that is controversial. My Twitter algo is so messed up. It's like For You is awful. The For You page is like brain rot, and just I do not know how it thinks I want to see some of the things it puts there. It doesn't make sense. It's like all of like hyper political stuff, or just like you'll never believe what happens next videos, and it's like people at a beach. I'm like, okay, there's gonna be a wave. Like, I do not care. Like, this is really stupid. Or I put on following, and then it's like, if I don't see it within the first like 45 minutes of someone tweeting it, like, I never see it. So the algo is in utter shambles over on Twitter. But let's see. Yeah, so this has taken an absolute eternity to crawl through the first and beginning of the second round. Skeletor, I about spit out my drink after Bill got KO'd the other night. Yeah, that was a MMA. There was a UFC fight. I was so excited. I was so excited about, and the fighter I was most excited to watch. I think the fight lasted under 30 seconds with the guy I was on getting viciously kneed to the head, and that was it. That was it. GIF had me dying. Yeah, not great. Not great at all. But let's see. Yeah, I have to imagine some of these people are now on auto, because that was a very long time for this for this turn to happen. So we've had a lot of time to think about our picks. Steve, I hope you're prepared for class here once Gomer 69 goes. Maybe there were 68 Gomers, and finally on the 69th attempt, his username was available. So I admire his persistent Manos 8. See, he only had to get through 8 or 7 Manoses to get there. There goes Brock Bowers paired with the Puka Nakua drafter, and Steve goes double elite running back with Gibbs and Taylor. I like that. For the sprint. I don't know why. I feel like going double running back makes a ton of sense. I would love to get Bucky at 23. I doubt he will be here, but we'll see what the room gives to us. I'm pretty Tyreek Hill pilled. So if Bucky's not there, I would probably lean towards taking Tyreek. I think the Dolphins' playoff schedule is decent, and again, I've really come around to the idea of Tyreek being potentially the sort of like league winner, league winning kind of player that we're getting in the late second round. Definitely more than like a T. Higgins. Rashee Rice. I've talked about this endlessly. How I don't like the price. I am warming up to the idea of taking some of him, just not wanting to be out on who could potentially be the number one receiver in the Chiefs offense. A full fade of that, it does feel kind of bad. But so there goes Josh Jacobs. So the question for me is, do I take Chase Brown, who I think represents sort of last chance saloon at running back? I know I just said that about Tyreek Hill. I'm willing to risk it here. I'm gonna take Chase Brown. If I don't get Tyreek, then I'll take either Garrett Wilson or Marvin Harrison. Again, it's not my preference, but if that's what ends up happening, that's what ends up happening. So T. Higgins goes, and Garrett Wilson. So I do end up getting my guy with Tyreek. So perfectly happy with this Chase Brown, Justin Jefferson, Tyreek Hill start. And here we go. Let's see if people are actually on auto and this speeds up a little bit. Trey McBride going, Dirty P going full piss boy with Lamb, AJ Brown, and Terry McLaurin, and Steve now on the clock. Steve, let's see what Steve's options are. A little bit of a falling MHJ there. Let's see if that's where Steve goes, or if he decides to pick up an elite QB. He takes Devontae Adams. That makes sense. I remember you being kind of Devontae pilled, Steve, and making the argument that you could see a universe in which Devontae actually leads the Rams in receiving. I know you did not say that was the most likely outcome, but it is a possibility. And Devontae Adams is just an absolutely incredible player, and seems like his game is aging so well. So I love getting Devontae Adams in that third round there. So I think that is a perfectly reasonable pick. And they also have if I remember right, a somewhat favorable playoff schedule themselves. It's I believe they play the Falcons week 16, which seems pretty good. Seriously, I've never seen someone hit like how Hot Z Sauce hits respect. Is that you? I thought you were Cross X Face on Underdog. So now I'm rethinking everything. I've got to make a list of people whose names don't match their YouTube, because I always feel bad when I forget who somebody is. All right, let's see. Coming around, Lamar goes to the Henry team. You see that somewhat frequently. Tyler, a.k.a. Emo Cowboy, a.k.a. member of the Typhel Tower. Thank you so much, Tyler, for coming in this morning. I hope you're having a good morning out there. We were here in the dark, no power. It looked grim. The stream was in jeopardy, but my God, they came through at almost at around 9 a.m. The lights came on, and we were able to go live. DQ 105 round 3 is always the toughest early round to navigate IMO. I 100% agree. I 100% agree, especially the back half. This Allen, Kyron, Lamar, Evans, Cook range kind of bleeding into Ted McMillan and like including Brees and JSN. That's a range where if you're like me, none of those feel comfy. Like I'm sure some people really like one of those players, and so they don't mind picking there. But I feel like I kind of am happy when this is done, because then, this range that you get down here of Metcalf, Devonta, Sutton, Pickens, it's kind of like a flat tier. You're not really, super excited about any of them, but you're not like too upset about them either. So I agree. I find the third round is pretty difficult there. So JMO goes. That's unfortunate. That would have been awesome. I would have absolutely loved a JMO selection myself. Interesting choice here. I could go elite quarterback and take Jalen Hurts, but I think I'm going to add a share of DK Metcalf here. And Pittsburgh does have that one game in Detroit, which I feel like could really push push Pittsburgh. Chuba Hubbard is actually who I was going to take with my next pick, but I'm very bullish on Houston's sort of playoff schedule, and I'd like to add another running back to this team, so I will take Joe Mixon there. Again, when we're drafting for the end of the season, Joe Mixon always feels a little sketchy taking these veterans, but I have to assume that the players I'm drafting are going to be there late in the year. So we'll take Joe Mixon, and then we'll see what Steve does. Steve is on the clock. Dirty P went first. He took Omari and Hampton and Ken Walker. So after starting with 3 receivers, he gets 2 running backs. So that makes sense. Steve's philosophy is win the flex, and you win the flex by usually filling that with running back. Again, Steve, sorry, I'm paraphrasing, but yeah, he takes Alvin Kamara. Again, if we're going to assume health and assume roles remain strong, Alvin Kamara, a fantastic pick there. Yep, makes sense there. So he's got 3 running backs and 2 receivers. Tyler says, smash the sub GM. Yes, I have. It has been 51 minutes and I have not asked for likes or subs. I didn't even ask for any likes to do another draft. I could have, held the room at like point, but I did not. So I would appreciate it, Tyler. Thank you for the shout out and the reminder. Stream by candlelight, almost on brand. I debated making that joke early, and then I was just like, I can't do it. And I was like, well, it's kind of bright out, so like even if the power is out at like 9 a.m, you don't really need candles. And so, like everything in life, Tyler, I overthought it, and I and then I completely ruined the joke. Cross X Face says he's definitely not him. That sounds like something that Hot Sea Sauce would face, Cross X. So now I'm even more suspicious. Ant X Wall just jumped in and liked instantly. Well, appreciate it, Ant X Wall. Thanks so much for popping in this morning. And as always, I truly appreciate the support. So let's see what Solar Trapper is doing. He decided that Joe Burrow at pick 60 unstacked is how you win the sprint. I don't know, folks. You tell me, especially when you have Lamar Jackson. What you need to do, folks, is add an unstacked Joe Burrow. Video coming out on that shortly. I suppose if he stops at 2 quarterbacks, then maybe I do see the vision, but that seems a little thin. It seems a little thin, especially to win the sprint. I don't know why I feel like maybe stacking feels slightly more important, and the unstacked quarterback might be a little bit worse. Especially, again, you use the draft capital to take Lamar there in the 3rd round. It feels a little odd to take an unstacked Burrow there. Not that I'm bitter or anything. I mean, maybe I would have been the unstacked Burrow guy at 71. Who knows? But let's see what Steve is doing. Steve takes Chris Godwin. Great pick. I would have loved had Godwin fallen all the way back to me. Dirty P coming up on the clock. Kind of fertile ground for running backs, which is likely the position that I'm going to target. Montgomery, I've been a little bit out on compared to Caleb, Judkins, and then to a lesser extent Pollard and Swift. I think for me, if I can, the pick would probably be Caleb. Although I really do like Sam Laporta. And if I took Laporta, then I could take whichever running back's given to me. I guess it's going to depend what Big Truckin does. Dirty P takes Jordan Addison. Nice pick there. You're getting a little discount on him being out early in the season, and you really need him late in the season in this particular competition. I'm just going to take... do I want to take Laporta here? Interesting choice. I'm going to take Laporta here, get a little piece of the Lions offense that I'm super excited about, and then take either Caleb or Judkins, depending on which comes to us. They both came to us. So in that case, I'm going to take Judkins and bet a little bit on the Pittsburgh Steelers. So, I've got 2 Steelers playing against Laporta in week 16. I've got Justin Jefferson playing against Laporta in week 17. So, a little bit of stuff. I got Tyreek versus Chase Brown week 16. So trying to build for some of these late season games, and offenses I think have some favorable stuff late in the year. let's head back over to chat. Hartman, GM, thank you so much for coming by and the support as always. Truly appreciate you swinging in this Wednesday morning. Sean Mitchell is reported Al Boogie. Yes. Yeah, you're being accused of all sorts of wild tweeting. I hope everything I hope everything is okay. I have not, again, I assume it's actually pretty milquetoast tweets that Al Boogie is talking about. All right, let's see what Steve and Dirty P did. So Dirty P takes Quinn-Sean Judkins. Makes sense. Again, now he's up to 3 running backs. Steve-O takes Matthew Golden, another nice pick. These rookies, if they kind of bloom late, make a ton of sense. Matthew Golden certainly fits that category of player. So I like Matthew Golden in all formats, but potentially the number 1 receiver in Green Bay that we're getting in the 7th round, considering we used to draft Reed in the 4th and 5th rounds last season. We're getting a big discount on who we think could be leading the pass catchers over there. So the Solar Trapper here, after taking Lamar and Burrow, adds Patrick Mahomes to his team. So triple elite quarterback that's going to make QB a little squirrely in this room, which is slightly unfortunate. Might force some earlier than perhaps we want to QB selections to not get frozen out. We'll see if the rest of the room is tuned into that or not. But certainly makes me consider taking one of my QBs earlier than maybe I want to. I don't really want to take Jared Goff a half a round ahead. Steve, of course, takes Justin Fields. That makes a ton of sense. I would have likely taken Fields had he fallen to me. Again, we have Goff, we have McCarthy, Tua, and Aaron Rodgers as potential quarterbacks, to a lesser extent, maybe a Stroud if we want to try to backstack the Texans pieces there. Let's see what the room gives to us. There goes Ayuk, and there goes Hawkinson. So I know I could do Higgins to continue to build out the maybe Higgins makes more sense in the context of this team and opens up Stroud as another potential stacking partner later along with Joe Mixon. So let's take him and then see what the room gives to us. Could certainly go naked Murray or naked Knicks. I think both of them are perfectly reasonable picks. I could take, another share of Scatabo. I think I'm going to take Cooper Kupp and load up another potential late quarterback option. I think the QBs are going to be going early, but this will at least enable Rodgers and Darnold as potential late round quarterbacks to round out the team if we do feel like we're getting frozen out at QB. Dirty P takes no chances. He takes Dak at pick 101 to stack with Lamb. I'm going to feel bad about not reaching for a QB or taking just like a naked Kyler if Solar Trapper takes yet another quarterback. I think it's really going to thin out there, but I think if I see that I need to catch up, I can just pull the ripcord and take a very early Tua or something along those lines. All right. Al Boogie says, smash the like so Chad can keep the lights on. Yeah. The actual story is I did not pay the electric bill and they turned the. No, it was we've had some bad storms here, and the power was out for much of the area. So Solar Trapper gets Cam Scatabo. So Steve passed on Scatabo to take Mark Andrews, and so he does not get a Scatabo team. I actually like Scatabo for the sprint quite a bit. I think the Giants Raiders game is sneaky. Like, it could just be a sneaky bad shootout. Like, those two teams with bad defenses that were kind of, maybe they're not great all season, could just like randomly spike. So I don't know. I just have this weird feeling that game could hit the over. Donnie Murphy, GM, did I miss the talk on the new gambling bill? I need to look into it more. But yeah, Donnie Murphy, I did not want to get started because this has actually been like making me physically upset of how just unfair the situation is with that gambling bill. And for those of you who don't know, pushed in last minute was an amendment to the big beautiful bill, whatever you want to call it or name it goes by, was a provision that for gambling, you right now as it stands, if you can offset or deduct your gambling losses versus your gambling wins. So you can deduct up to the amount you can deduct the amount you lose up to the amount you win. You can't like write off all your taxes because you lost in gambling. But if you essentially if you break even, you don't pay any taxes because you didn't make any money. They're going to limit the amount you can deduct to 90% of your losses, meaning if you win at the casino $100,000 and you lose $100,000, you're only able to deduct $90,000 in losses. So you're going to owe taxes on $10,000 that you didn't actually win. So it is just an absolute nightmare, and it's going to make professional gambling like virtually impossible in the United States. So unfortunately, Goff did go. Well, we'll take JJ McCarthy here. And, and worse, you can end up actually losing money and owing taxes on it. In the case where you lost $105,000 and you made $100,000 in winnings, even though in reality you lost $5,000, you can only deduct 90% of that 105 in losses. And so I'm just going to take CJ Stroud here. I'm sorry, I'm trying to multitask here. And so it is an absolute nightmare, and it really is going to impact like professional poker players. It's a little less clear how it's going to affect, DFS and fantasy stuff. Some of that is some like minutia and what you define as like a session at a casino, whether all of your fantasy play is one session. I don't know exactly how that's treated, and that starts getting beyond what I know, but essentially it's really bad. It's really bad for the entire industry, and it was just tucked in at the very last second. And I don't know if I honestly think it's going to pass through because the House does not want to change anything because they're trying to get this bill signed by July 4th. So my sinking feeling is that this is going to become law, and these things are almost impossible to undo because, as much as we, care about our gambling and our livelihood, we're not exactly the most sympathetic people to much of America. And to get, the Congress to act solely to undo or change a provision like this is going to be tough. So we'll see what happens. Fingers crossed that they're, that they do, take this out. But I am concerned that the House is just going to vote on the Senate version of the bill. And there's so much more, important to most of America stuff in the bill that it's going to go through. So not great, Donnie Murphy. Not great. Some people on Twitter did a good job explaining it. I was trying to do it off the cuff, but essentially, it's it really for players, near break even could end up owing taxes on money they don't have because they didn't, frankly, just did not win. So it is truly a shame that was inserted the way that it was without any discussion. So getting back to the draft at hand, I have 2 week 6 QB buys, so I'm definitely going to try to add someone else. Tua goes at 137. That kind of sucks. I was hoping to get Tua there. Steve, he takes Jordan Love and is now on the clock. I'm sure Steve was hoping to get Tucker Kraft there, but he does not. Hartman says that will probably kill pro poker. Absolutely. If you want to report your taxes accurately as a professional poker player, you are now going to get absolutely crushed. It will be impossible to make a living playing professional poker as an American, and that is just the long and short of it. It's a big bummer. It really is. All right, so coming up to us, I would like a running back. Man, I do not take Rachaad White, and I suppose if I don't take him here, I never take him. Maybe I'll take a Dallas Goedert because that will enable me to just end at two tight ends, and then I'm just going to take a receiver in this range. There goes Geno. Man, where do I pick next? I pick at 167. I'm just nervous I'm not going to get another quarterback here if I don't take Darnold or Rodgers. But you know what? I'm just going to take Aaron Rodgers. This is a little bit cowardly, maybe, but I'm just going to do it because if we do see some kind of crazy QB run and I don't get another quarterback, normally I would say, well, if I end at 2 QBs, that's fine. But I have 2 week 6 buys, and that feels pretty awful. And for me, the functional difference between White and Garendo, and then like Dowdle, Roshan, Jalen Wright is pretty negligible versus this team could just be kind of dead. Again, probably everyone's going to stop taking quarterbacks and like Sam Darnold's going to be there for me. But, just in case, I do not trust this room. This guy also took Trevor Lawrence there. So he's now, at 4 QBs. It's, Hot Z Sauce and Oleg Mari and Gormer. I think they only have 1. They may realize that what's going on, Dirty P and Steve are certainly aware of the QB situation and have been able to act accordingly. But who knows how much attention other people have been paying to the room. Greg says the storms blew out the cart path and my round was canceled today. Down bad. Yeah, Greg, I'm sorry to hear that, man. I am sorry to hear that, but I suppose you can take solace by going to NFLshop.com and getting a new Darren Waller Miami Dolphins jersey, which I'm sure are going to be just flying off the shelves for our new tight end there. But yeah, tough times over in the pro gambling space, and again, especially for poker players. It really just feels like this kind of came out of nowhere. And for those of us old enough to remember 2011, when very similarly online poker died overnight because there was a port security bill, and some senator decided to shoehorn in a provision about banks doing business with online casinos, making that illegal. And it had nothing to do with port security, but nobody was going to hold up a port security bill to save online poker, and online poker died literally overnight, and that was it. And that was how many of us were actually like earning their livelihood back then. And it was terrible. People had to move to, some people like chose to like move to Costa Rica, which is fine when you're like 22 or whatever, but it's just not great. So Ola McGarkey, he takes Sam Darnold. So, maybe Allen would not have actually, or Aaron Rodgers would not have made it out to me. We will not know, but I do feel a little better about just taking the guy that I needed to fill out my roster. And we'll see what the room provides us as far as running back. I'm going to take Rico Dowdle share. I think he makes sense as a 4th running back on the team, contingent upside plus a little bit of standalone value. Roshan goes. I think Pat Bryant would be my choice here. I think pretty handily. I could take another one of these backs. I like Chubb, Sanders, and Braylon Allen. I think all of those guys are fine. Maybe I will take a Braylon Allen share. I've cooled quite a bit on Breece Hall. I think this could be more of a split environment than we realize. And again, I think he's also a standalone plus contingent guy more than pretty much anybody left in that. I have a lot of Pat Bryant already, and maybe this gives me the chance to take a few different late round receivers in the area. All right. My in-laws are from Aberdeen. Are you familiar with that area? I have done a couple hikes up near there. You're starting to get up close to the kind of Delaware border area, but I can't say that I've spent too much time there. But I could point it out on a map, and I've definitely driven past the signs for the old Aberdeen Proving Grounds on I-95. Quid pro quo. First of all, thank you so much for coming by. Gotta pay for socialism somehow. Yeah, well, that's the thing is that I think on paper somebody said, this is going to raise revenue, we're going to get more money from those no good gambling addicts, and it's like, no, you're just going to push it all offshore and people aren't going to pay taxes on that. Like, the only one who wins from this is Bovada in the other offshore books. Like, it's just absolutely crazy. Like, people will just choose to do their betting in unregulated books, it's going to be less safe for bettors. It's Nevada's going to lose business. Like it is so bad. It is so bad. But somebody put it in, and there wasn't enough pushback to not. And I'm really just afraid it's going to pass with absolutely no thought by any of the stakeholders. Lay the House RM, our goat. Well, too kind, Lay the House RM. One of the better Twitter follows for sports betting. I understand Lay the House RM also does some streaming sometime. I have not caught those yet, but I know Lay the House RM, and he's an awesome dude and a great Twitter follow. So I will try to catch some of your streams soon. You got to let me know when you're going live, or tell the people. But again, Lay the House RM, a class act out there. Let's see what Steve has been up to. He took Adam Thielen, pairs him with Bryce Young, and gets Will Shipley chasing, one of the higher contingent value backs out there. Dirty P, he added Brenton Strange and Miles Sanders. I will review the teams when we're done, because I've done a poor job of checking in on Dirty P and Steve-O. Again, this is why I was trying to avoid. Chad and I drank heavily together one time. Well, these things happen. We were at King of the Beach in Miami, so it was a fun time in the DFS streets. I'm just going to take another share of Diami Brown. We're going to play the hits there. I also have Jalen Knoll, who might make more sense. No, we'll take Diami Brown. I really think Diami Brown is just a really good play here. So there goes Thornton, and let's see. Do we take another running back, or do we take one of these receivers? Interesting question here. I'm going to take Keenan Allen. I'm going to take the punt on him more than anyone. But the fact that he's not on a team, he's one of these guys that as soon as he signs somewhere, I think is going to rocket up. Jalen Knoll, I am worried could just legitimately be a zero. Obviously I think he's good for the sprint, because if he does play, he's going to come on very late. But I'll take a punt on Josh Allen, and then round this team out with one more receiver. Obviously, I could also take a tight end, but I think with Laporta and Goddard, I kind of made my tight end bed here. So we will see what we get at running back. Ty Felton would have been an interesting choice. Take one more Vikings receiver, rookie again, another guy who could come on late, but we will see. That's why most of us are right. Well, and Xval, this was a Republican amendment to it. So we gamblers simply, this is why we do this. We're on our own. Nobody's looking out for us. We have to just look out for ourselves. Dirty P says, this is miserable. 0 plans coming together. Oh heavens, Dirty P, I am sorry to hear that. We'll go over your team after. I'm sure it's not as bad as you are making it out to be. Steve-O, he takes Brashard Smith. Dirty P gets Darius Slayton. I love the Darius Slayton pick, because he's they certainly paid him like he's going to be out there on the field, and you're going to get someone who projects as kind of a surefire starter in the 17th round. That's tough to say no to. Brashard Smith, I click a ton of Brashard Smith. If he's really the Jerick McKinnon of the team, then we are getting a huge discount based on backfield uncertainty. It is an incredibly crowded backfield in Kansas City, but it is also not the most talented backfield in Kansas City. And Brashard Smith to me is kind of like Scatabo, in that he carried a team to the college playoff. SMU was not projected to be anything, but they made it to the playoff because of Brashard Smith. And similar ASU, Scatabo carried the team that was projected to finish dead last in the Big 12 to the playoff. And so I think Scatabo obviously is a better prospect, more of a pure runner. Brashard Smith, converted wide receiver, but being a converted wide receiver with Patrick Mahomes, who has shown the ability to just, create huge amounts of value for pass catching running backs. I love the Brashard Smith. I think he's a perfect fit for Kansas City. And if he's talented enough to see the field, that's going to be a absolutely fantastic selection there. So let's see who Steve winds out his team with. He of course pairs Mason Taylor with Justin Fields. I like that. I did not note that earlier, but that's good pick. He takes MVS, who I like quite a bit. And I only like MVS because I think Steve has sold me on MVS, but I have definitely come around to him. Let's see what the room gives to us. I have Chase Brown, so I don't think I want to do Taj Brooks. I think that's getting a little clever there. Some of my favorite running backs here have all been taken. Maybe this is the time and the place to take a shot on a Jordan James. Definitely a high possibility that this is a stone zero, but honestly, so are a lot of these. Kyle Monungai, I don't mind that pick. He could potentially be more. Maybe I'll take Monungai over Jordan James. If Jordan James is the backup in San Francisco, then that is going to be like an absolute smash. But I think Monungai's been getting a little bit of positive coach speak in Chicago, and I don't think we've heard the last of who's going to come out of that backfield. And if by the end of the season, maybe things aren't going super well for the Bears, we could see a little Kyle Monungai. So I'll take him as my last round click. Again, trying to vary who I take. So this team ends up being a 3-6-7-2 with JJ McCarthy, CJ Stroud, Aaron Rodgers at QB, Chase Brown, Joe Mixon, Caleb Johnson, Rico Dowdle, Braylon Allen, and Kyle Monungai at running back. So I like this, a young running back room, but a couple of more veteran players kind of holding it down early. Wide receiver room, Justin Jefferson, Tyreek Hill, DK Metcalf, Jaden Higgins, Cooper Kupp, Diami Brown, Keenan Allen. So kind of an old wide receiver room for a contest like the Sprint. But again, we'll just see what happens. And then Laporta and Goddard at tight end. So do not mind this team. Let's see what Dirty P did. I'll pull the board up. So it sounds like Dirty P, yeah, that Daniels snipe was tough. First, let's see what happened. So he did not get Jaden Daniels at 44, which was unfortunate. It went to Gomer 69. So Dirty P, he gets Dak, Justin Herbert, and Tyler Shuck. Running back room of Omarion Hampton, Ken Walker, Quinshon Judkins, Jordan Mason, Bashal Tootin, and Miles Sanders. I think this is a perfectly fine running back room you've assembled. CD Lamb, AJ Brown, Terry McLaurin, Jordan Addison, Cedric Tillman, Darius Slayton. So going 3-6-6-3, but I think your starting four wide receivers, especially late, are very strong. And Tillman seems like a guy that could hit lineups, and Slayton, one of the better late round receivers in my estimation. And then Likely, Strange, and Oronde Gadsden. So we'll see. I mean, he's apparently doing everything right over there in LA now. Getting past Disley and Conklin doesn't seem like the tallest order in the world. Oronde Gadsden, great pass catcher. So, again, the Sprint is so heavily back weighted. I mean, all these contests are, but I think this is fine. I think I like the team. Slightly thin at tight end, but there's a chance that Likely sees a little more. They were talking about making him an all-pro, and I love Brenton Strange, so I like the team you made, Dirty P. I do think things came together for you pretty well. Let's see what Steve built. He's got a 3-5-7-3, so a classic build there with Fields, Love, and Young at quarterback. I think that makes sense, especially we saw quarterbacks getting hoovered up in this room, so to have three pretty good starters there is nice. Gibbs, Jonathan Taylor, Alvin Kamara, and Will Shipley and Brashard Smith. So really leaning in on the early running backs. Again, I think that makes sense, right? You're making a bet on Gibbs and Taylor, and to a lesser extent Kamara. And if they're not it, then your team's kind of doomed, and just trying to pick up mid-round backs to try to do everything all at once doesn't make sense. I mean, you got to draft like you're right. So I like that you kind of backed off heavily on running back there. Wide receiver room, Devontae Adams, Devonta Smith, Chris Godwin, Matthew Golden, Trey Harris, Adam Thielen, and MVS. Nice team. A lot of veteran receivers, but then a couple of high upside rookies in Golden and Harris. So very, a team that makes a lot of sense. And then Andrews, Ferguson, and Taylor. So pretty strong tight end room with some late round upside. Really like the team that both of you made. So I think you all, I hopefully a couple of us get through and we'll be in the finals together. Steve with the Carolina Seahawks Nuts game. Yes, I did not notice that, but Thielen versus MVS just going back and forth as we all expect. Steve wasn't expecting Daniel still had Hurts or Mixon round 5. Best laid plans. Yeah, Dirty P. That's what happens. That is what happens. Lay the House RM asked the eternal question. If I end up maxing BBM, how many drafts do you think I should have done by now? Lay the House RM, that is a matter of preference, right? There are people who have maxed BBM already. And then there are people who have done less than 10 BBMs. I want to say Hertzig has only done like less than 15. I don't think I made that up. I think he wants to wait till August for most of his drafts. If it wasn't him, it was another good high volume player. I think Liam has done close to 50. Again, it's a push and pull, right? Like, there's a lot more uncertainty now. You're very likely to be drafting some zeros late. You could also be drafting players that get injured in training camp. And that does two things. One, you could draft a guy that's injured. Two, if Saquon Barkley, breaks his leg in training camp, Will Shipley is going to move from the 17th round to like the 8th round. And so you're going to be way ahead of teams drafting in August if you're getting Shipley now. The corollary is, right now you're going to be drafting more dead teams. If you wait though, you can draft 18 roster spots of players like what their role is going into the season. So you have way more information. So it's like, do you take the information edge you get in August, or do you take the more risk of eating zeros, the more uncertainty? When we're taking backup running backs, like last year, I was taking Eli Mitchell over Jordan Mason, like every time. And then it came out that, Mitchell's going to miss the season. So I had just dead teams galore. But I didn't realize I was not drafting the backup running back in San Francisco. I was drafting an injured player in San Francisco. So it balances out. So to balance it out, I just don't want to wait too long and run out of entries. Yeah. And I think it's also like the pace you want to do them, right? Like, I don't want to have to do 100 drafts in the last 2 weeks, because that's going to be like kind of nauseating. But I kind of just wanted to evenly be doing them somewhat evenly throughout the year. So I'm at a little less than 100 left, but that's kind of how I have paced it. All right. Steve, yeah, Dirty P doesn't want to talk about it. I know it is all in good fun. This was a single sprint draft of many that we will be doing at Ant Xwall. He's at 63 BPMs. Dirty P says tough rooms. He sprints every upside guy you're expecting to be there. These rooms are always sharper. They're not like BBM rooms where, you can kind of target like, okay, I want to end my draft with Brashard Smith and MVS and, Brenton Strange or whomever. And like in some of those guys who are getting a little bit of steam in random places, like they go ahead of where they go in BBMs. And then you're looking late in the draft. And like I did, I'm staring at Kyle Monungai, and normally Brashard Smith is just smiling warmly at me and a couple of the other running backs I like in that range. And there it's like, okay, this has gotten pretty thin here in this room. All right. FK Coolers non-time box contest. I've always felt if you don't have actionable information edge, it's usually best to wait, but I am new and learning. Yeah, and it's certainly not a standard, right? Like it is definitely a topic people debate and have opinions on. Steve says, I may not have maxed it before, but did the majority of my drafts in August last year, and I do think that helped my advance rate. Yeah, it's probably very good for advance rates, which, you can debate whether that's worth the potential passing on like super teams. And a few years ago we got the catastrophic injury for the Rams running back. I can't remember, was it Akers that got hurt, and then Kyron there was something happened with I think it was a Rams running back, and so you had a guy who was going in the like 16th to 18th round that ended up being like a 3rd round pick. I don't know why I'm blanking on who the beneficiary was there, but these kind of things do happen, and if you wait till August and that player that does rise into the 3rd round is the true smash, you're going to be like really behind a lot of teams. So that's why I kind of want to try to, again, vary when I am building, so that I don't like miss out on that kind of thing. It doesn't happen every year, but when it does happen, it can be like really game changing. My early team got me to the finals because I was ballsy enough to draft Darnold early. Yeah, that's another thing. So, Sam Darnold was um, a guy that you could get super late and, went undrafted in a lot of contests. And, by the end of the season, all of a sudden you could have Justin Jefferson and Jordan Addison's quarterback massively late. Lay the house RM 13 so far. Yeah. Again, I think you're on a pace where if you, do one or two a day, you'll get it done before I think we're in the 60s of days left. And X-Wall. Yeah. Finals team. I am jealous of that. Akers going down and Kyron smashing. Okay. Yeah. That's what I thought it was. And that was, again, you're not going to have that happen every year, but it is the sort of thing that benefits and hurts early drafters. Like if you were drafting Akers in the 3rd round, you have a bunch of dead teams. But if you're drafting Kyron in the 17th round, you have a bunch of super teams. So it's just one of those things that you just cannot predict. But you have to decide if that's the kind of risk you want to put onto your portfolio. Lutz GM. Well, everybody, this was a super fun stream. I did not think I'd be able to do it. I thought the power would never return. I thought my internet would never return, but I really appreciate it. If you can, please like and subscribe. This is super fun. I'm going to be on again tomorrow. I will be off on Friday doing some family stuff for the 4th, but again, I will see you all tomorrow. Thank you again, and I will draft with you again soon. Take care, everyone.